Hello everyone, Matt here in the control room. Just wanted to let you know that Andy's surgery went well. He'll still be out of the studio for a bit, but he's up and cannot wait to get back in here to talk with all of you. So today we've decided to just run a best of episode of the Blue Plate special, and over the next 2 weeks we'll have Jimmy Yeary in here, we'll have Sugarcane Jane, and they'll be doing sort of a music takeover of the Blue Plate. So that's all from me. Thank you all for the prayers and the support. Andy sure loves and appreciates every one of you. And now to the show.
Please welcome Mark Lowry. Mark, are you there?
I am here.
He's got the guy from Up on the screen.
Hey, buddy.
Do you see my T-shirt?
He's got the guy from Up.
And don't I? See if they ever make
I think that is you. That is you, Mark.
I want to play the part.
And you know I've said this for a while. I mean, because I've known you for a long time. I've known you when you were a little kid. And now I look at you now, and every time I look at you, I go, it's the guy from Up. It's the guy from the movie Up. And so you have yourself on your T-shirt.
You're getting old when your 10-year-old niece looks at you and says, you look like that old man in the Up movie. And I just own it.
Your niece goes, I love your movie. And you ought to. Hey, you wrote Mary, did you know? You can say, yeah, that was me. They animated me a little bit, but that was me. I mean, I would claim it. Yeah. You know, people, isn't it weird? And have you experienced this through the years? As much television as you have done and as I have done, do people come up to you sometimes and they mistake where they saw you and they say, God, I love you? Because people would come up to me and they, especially back when I was doing comedy, and they go, I watch you on The Tonight Show, and I think you're just like one of my favorite people, and I love it. And I go, oh, thank you so much. And I was never on The Tonight Show. Do you ever have that happen?
Well, I've had people mistake me for Ken Davis, but never like where they, I mean, I guess I'm pretty, my head's so big, it's hard to forget, you know. I don't know. I've never had any, Ken Davis and I have been, you know Ken, don't you?
Yeah, sure. I love Ken. Yeah. And do you remember from the old Nashville Now, and actually I think Mike is a member of the Grand Ole Opry now, but do you remember Mac from Gleason, Tennessee? What's his last name? Mike Snyder. And Mike was so country, and he embraced it, and he played the banjo, you know. And at the time, I was, here I was on Nashville Now all the time, but I didn't consider myself a country comedian. And of course, all the country people did not consider me a country comedian, and all the pop people would see me on Nashville Now, and they said he's a country comedian.
You know what, though? I remember you being on Nashville Now, and I remember you being hysterical. That's what I remember. Well, and then I remember you coming to do stuff for Gaither, and you were again hysterical. So it's just, and what I love about what you do, it's just storytelling. You know, it's not like you tell 3 jokes, change the subject, tell 3 jokes and change it. You know, like comedians do, like Jerry Seinfeld. That's what he does. He'll tell 3 jokes, change.
Yeah, so God knows he's been a failure. So,
well, listen, he's amazing at what he does. But he's
I know, but you're right. That's not what I do. But that's not see. You and I. Maybe that's why I like what you do so much, because you. But you see, you have the dimension, you can sing, and you didn't even want to be a comedian. You wanted to be a singer.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the deal. I was studying business at Liberty Baptist College, and the Lord spoke to me. And for a Baptist to say that, you know it was the Lord, because he doesn't speak to us.
What do you sound like, by the way? Do you have an accent?
Well, it was actually, yes, he sounds a lot like me. He speaks in a very Texan accent to me. You know, I think he speaks to each of us in our own dialect. But it was in my spirit. It wasn't, but the Lord changed my whole direction. What happened was that day I went from going to a business degree to getting a youth degree to get out so I could start doing what I felt like God had called me to do, which was go into music, because I thought I was a singer. And then I'd go to these independent Baptist churches, and they'd sit there with their arms folded, and they wouldn't clap because that's giving glory to men. They wouldn't shout because they're afraid someone might think they're doing it in another language. But they would laugh. They would laugh. And that's how I knew they were listening. All I cared about was, are they listening?
Right.
Because if they're not listening, what good is what you have to say, So I found out that humor was a good way to disarm your audience so you could share something eternal with them. I'm hearing all this for the first time myself, Andy.
You know what?
I'm a talk thinker.
I know exactly what you talk about. I think while I'm talking, I think out loud, sometimes to my detriment, because sometimes I'll be dealing with somebody who's like a potential business client, and I'll think through something and let something out, and then I leave them and I think, wow, I probably won't get hired now because they got everything they need, But
the beautiful thing is that while I was early on in those independent Baptist churches, I was able to hone a craft that I never intended to have, which is storytelling or humor, and some called it comedy. But the word comedian always kind of frightened me, because if you say, here comes a comedian, then they expect you to be funny.
Right.
But if you tell them you're a singer from Jerry Falwell's school, when I first got started, I would go in there and open with, in this very room, there's quite enough love for one like me, and they'd all be sitting there, and I could see it in their eyes. It'd start to glaze over like, oh, dear Lord, are we going to sit through 15 minutes of this? And then I would start talking, and they weren't expecting me to be funny. And so you catch them off guard. I think it's a much easier way to do it than to say, and now welcome the most incredible comedian. Well, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, I mean, now I cringe when I hear somebody introduce me and they say, for years he was a comedian, and you can still hear him on Sirius XM radio on the comedy channels. And so I just cringe, because I'm like, this would be so much easier today if you wouldn't tell them any of that. But you're right. And so but the first time I saw you, actually the first time we saw each other, you tell me that I did not know I saw you.
Someone wrote it down, make them laugh to make sure they're listening, so you can share something eternal with them.
Yeah, that's
so you can share with them something eternal. Yeah.
I'll be going back and watching this. Carol Woodward Steele says hello.
Oh, and I know. I'm looking at the comments too.
Sandy Pratt says hello. Hey, Sandy.
Josiah Entry.
The first time I saw you perform was way before the Gaithers, and I was fascinated, because it was in a big arena, and Sandy Pratt may have been there actually. I was in a big arena and watching you, and I was fascinated because I knew this was somebody very, very, very different, and you sang, you talked about your family, and it fascinated me, because I was at a point in my life where I was trying to transition from comedy. I guess that's what people called me, a comedian. And I remember I loved Jerry Clower. Jerry was very nice to me, and so was Minnie Pearl. All those guys are just very cool, so nice, that whole Nashville crowd. But I remember sitting with Jerry one day and asking him, what do entertainers talk about? They said, well, where are you going? Where have you been? Who have you seen lately? And Jerry told me where he was the night before. And I remember thinking, I cannot be 70 years old, being the opening act for some 22-year-old country music person with 2 hits. I just didn't think that's where God wanted me to be. And Jerry had already done everything. He was the second guy to sell 1 million comedy albums. He was, I mean, the first one was Bob Newhart, by the way, and Jerry had done everything. And so Jerry was doing what he wanted to do at that point. But I was looking at that, and I was wondering if that was as good as it would get for me. And so that was when I really started looking at other ways of delivering content, and you fascinated me. And I don't even know if you remember that, but that was way before the Gaither stuff. I don't know if you remember that time in your life that much, but.
Well, from 80 to 88, I graduated from college in 1980, and Roy Morgan. Did you know Roy Morgan?
No, I knew Lori Morgan.
Okay, Roy. Yeah, well, Roy Morgan owns Premier Productions, which is a big outfit now. But anyway, he graduated from Liberty a year after me, but he called me and said, I want to book you. Well, right out of college in 1980, Roy Morgan booked me in 43 concerts in like 41 days in independent Baptist churches. That was Roy Morgan. And he was my booking agent until he outgrew me. And you know those big super kid festivals they do with thousands of kids? He does all that, you know. He's really, and he's just one of the greatest guys you'd ever want to know. But that's, you know, if it hadn't been for God putting the right people in my way also, let me just say, I would never have called a church and said, would you have me? I don't have that in me to sell myself on the phone to a pastor. But Roy could. He'd take the Baptist Bible Fellowship Directory and he planned it on a map and booked me from Lynchburg, Virginia. About every 200 miles, I was in another independent Baptist church. And I would sing. Those people didn't know me from Adam's House Cat. And I would set up my sound system. I finally quit letting the little old man at the back of the church run the tracks because he took too long. So I started running it from the Lord's Supper table. I put my tracks on the Lord's Supper. I had a foot switch. Listen to this. I had a foot switch. We would turn that reverb on so I'd sound like Johnny Mathis. And then when I talked, that foot switch would be hit and I'd turn that reverb off and I'd talk and then I would drive alone every 200 miles, right? So I'm thinking of new things to talk about that night. The radio wasn't that good back in those days. There's, AM and FM. That was it.
Right.
And I didn't like to listen to music. I like to think and listen to preaching or talking. I love that. That keeps me awake.
I'm still the same way. Audiobooks, talking.
Absolutely. And I'd get to laughing, pull the car over, write something down. I'd use it that night. And then those became routines, and I didn't even know what I was doing, really.
Right.
And then Gaither, the same thing. When I joined him in '88, so that event you were talking about had to be between 1980 and 1988, because when I joined the Gaithers in '88, Bill would have me do one of my monologues, and he would interrupt me. And that's how, and then I would get flustered and sass him back. And that's how that all started, the back and forth with that.
All right, go ahead.
Thanks.
But I'm interrupting a good Paul McCartney
That's okay.
story.
I mean, hey, but I was standing there with just out in this, like everybody just left. And all of a sudden, out of one of the rooms comes Paul McCartney. And he's just walking around, and I'm standing right in the middle of this thing. And I'm standing there, and he comes up to me, and he says, "Hiya." And I was like, my mouth went, but nothing came out. I was just like so stunned to be around somebody who truly influenced me so much as a musician, because I knew that he could play drums, bass, guitar, everything. And that's what when I was, 10 years old or 14, however old I was, I really patterned my mind after wanting to be a multi-instrumentalist because of him. But his energy, the energy that he had, and I think ultimately it was just my mind making up this barrier of being able to just be real with him. I wish now that I could go back and just talk to him and say, hey, I know it could help you right now. I could help you get your career back. Let's write a song together. You know, I just say something funny to him because I'm a naturally humorous person. But it just canceled me out like some sort of
like
thing.
seeing her the first time.
That's right.
Hey, I got a song. You know, Savannah and I consider myself a connoisseur of writing because I read a lot and I write and I try to do a good job. I look at people like you and Jimmy Yeary. It takes me 80,000 words to say something, and these guys do it in like 2.5, 3 minutes. But there is so many songwriters out there, but there's such a big a gap between people who are songwriters and people who are like you and Jimmy, because if for one thing you can not only craft the words, but there is something about the sense and the feeling. And to me, a great example, I would love for you guys, if you don't mind, to do Traveling Girl. And the reason that I really want you to do that is because this is such an odd song to me, because I heard it 10 times, and every time I'm hearing the song, I'm thinking, who did that? You know, they don't do many covers. You know, they do California Dreamin' and a couple of things like that just because I bug them. But everybody wants to hear their music, and so that's pretty much what they do. And so I'm hearing this Traveling Girl song, and I'm thinking, who did this? I mean, 10 times, 10, 12 times, I'm going, who did that song? That song is so familiar to me. And finally, I was actually up here one day and watching a replay of one of your concerts and heard it. I said, I need to find out who did that. And I went on the internet and it's like, they did it. They did it. Nobody else has done it. They did it. And it's so odd to me that a song can be so good in a way that transcends the words, transcends the music. It is a feeling. You hear some songs that they take you back to the 6th grade or they take you back to a certain time. And this song, for whatever reason, just sounds and speaks to me. Please play it. Traveling Girl.
All right, awesome. And this is a co-write with a good friend of mine. His name's Charles Court. And it's a funny story how he and I got together. But this song, I love this song. And when we first did it, it made me cry.
See her. I
Nice.
Aww.
And
It's cold in here.
Well, no, that's not it. What album is that on?
It's on National Treasure.
National Treasure. Okay.
That's on Anthony's solo album.
Okay. You also hear from crazy people. And we wanted to let you know one crazy person we heard from yesterday. So I'm going to read this to you. And I'm going to read to you exactly like it has come out. But I got to tell you, now halfway through this, you're going to think, why is he reading this? And then you're going to think, is Andy making fun of somebody? And of course, you know I would never do that. But I'm reading this because this person is very mad at me. And they're evidently going to release this to international media. So we thought we would get ahead of the game and go ahead and release it to our local friends, who, like you. Okay, so now you have to understand what this is about. This, the Professional Noticer is the podcast that comes out once a week. And it is set, obviously, we do not send every single one of these out individually. It goes out in a block, and it is set. What time does it go out, Matt?
5 a.m. Central.
5 a.m. Central Time is when it goes out. And it hits everybody's inboxes within 15 minutes?
That's right.
Okay. So 5 a.m. Central on Tuesday morning, every Tuesday morning for the last 90 weeks in a row, this thing has gone out at 5 a.m. and it hits the inboxes about 15 minutes later. Now, we do that on that day because at that time, hoping that it will be one of the first things in line for people on Tuesday morning. If you're not getting that to your inbox, that's another reason to sign up to the Andy Andrews VIP thing. And I don't think we've ever. I mean, there's a way somebody can opt out, somebody can unsubscribe, but I don't think we've ever banned anybody until yesterday. I mean, here we banned somebody from the show, and we banned somebody from our podcast, didn't we, Matt?
We did.
In one day. Wow, we're getting pretty tough here. Okay, here's the letter. You ready? You ready? Here we go. There's no Dear Andy to this. Okay, it's just starts off. It's 3:10 a.m. on the entire West Coast. It's 3 a.m. or 3. Excuse me. I'd like to start over. And Travis says he met me on the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover book tour. You read all the words. Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Travis, okay, here. I'm nervous about reading this letter. It makes me nervous when people are mad at me. And this person's really mad. Okay, here's what it says. And by the way, let me mention that everything is in capital letters. It's all capital letters. I always think when somebody's writing in capital letters, they're screaming. Okay, so this person's screaming at me. It's 3:10 a.m. on the entire West Coast. It's 3:10 a.m. on the entire West Coast. It's 3:10 a.m. on the entire West Coast. Give me your cell number so I can wake you up at 3:10 a.m. your time zone. Have a little respect, dude. Too many people trying to cover their financial bases. Makes me so sick, like the C19 crap that I have been fighting off and on since I was in the very same hospital when C19 first hit U.S. soil. They've been fighting C19 off and on. Wow. Since C19 first hit U.S. soil. Everett, Washington Peter Sagan's, that's where you guys are from. Everett Washington spent 2 days in the ED, emergency department, versus ER, emergency room. Room is singular. A department has many rooms. So this letter is not only mad, it's educational. All right, then we go on. I am a well-educated, well-groomed, and well-spoken lady. Quit laughing, Matt. She is a well-groomed, well-educated, well-spoken lady. Don't laugh. All right. I am a well-educated, well-groomed, and well-spoken lady. Don't ever again, ever, wake me and others on the West Coast up in the middle of the night. Do not, under any circumstances, ever wake me up like that again. What? This is W-H-U-T. Really? It's R-E-E-L-Y. Well educated. What? Really? A-Y-K-M? Are you kidding me? Matt?
I think that's right.
Are you? Okay. Are you kidding me? What? Really? Are you kidding me? Most peeps are trying to maintain their very own sanity globally. All right, here it's fixing to get good. I am 60 years old. Me too. All right, I am 60 years old, live up 32 stairs, 3rd floor, no elevator, and missing 7 toes. I am single for a decade, blah, blah, blah. 3 toes are all I have left. This is going to international media. I cannot believe what you just did to me. Unbelievable doesn't even begin to go there. Not even sure what to do about it.
So this scene that I want to show you is from episode 4, and we have been with Simon all night long. We know that he was fishing all night, desperate, because this was his livelihood. And we've got Matthew, the tax collector, who is following him because he owes major taxes to Rome. And so Matthew has been assigned by the Romans to follow Simon and figure out what he's doing, why he's doing what he's doing, why he's delinquent on his taxes, if he's going to come through. And Simon's been up all night. And so when Jesus has been preaching and using Simon's boat to preach, this is what we're about to show you is kind of what happens next.
Put that down for a catch. A little farther out.
I don't have a quarrel with you, teacher. But we've been doing this all night. Nothing. All right. That's your word.
Wow. I mean, I just, golly.
So what's funny about that scene, beyond just the content itself, which I love, and it was very moving, just even for me to watch it. I love watching it each time. But 3 days before we filmed that scene, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you this, well, I'll say 4 days. 4 days before we filmed that scene, because it was Thanksgiving, and we were going to be filming that scene on Monday. We didn't have a boat, we didn't have fish, and we didn't have a lake. And that kind of defines how this project has gone from day one. Is, right now it's proving to be successful, for lack of a better term, and it's doing well so far. But each day has been what we call the manna program. My wife came up with this term, the manna program, which is when God, gave manna to the Israelites, he gave them only enough for that day. And he even said, if you try to store up more manna for the future, I'm going to make it rot. He wanted them each morning to come to him, hands outstretched for his daily provision. And that's what this show has been like. And so I had been taught that lesson for a year and a half leading up to Thanksgiving. And because of that, I wasn't all that stressed out. But we have a video on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page called The Miracle of the Fish, because those fish that you're seeing in that scene were not there in the water. They were created all on, in post-production with visual effects, because every single attempt that we made to get fish that we could use in that scene fell through until 4 days before all of our options ran out. We had no fish.
And even your guy didn't really know how he was going to do it,
the
right?
Visual effects guy. Well, yeah, the visual effects guy. When I was looking for confidence that the visual effects could work, he was like, "Yeah, I think so." And
thank you.
What we did use on the day when we were filming, we had this big green tarp that was filled with water balloons so that it would be heavy and would sink. But the green, is like our own green screen.
Green screen.
And we referred to it as the green burrito was what we used, the term we used for it. And it was in an actual net. And so when they were lifting that heavy thing into the boat, that was real. All that strain, all of their pushing, all that, and as well as their celebration when they got into the boat, that was real too, because it was so difficult. But when I'm done filming that scene, because the reason we didn't have a lake at the time was because the lake had flooded, and so there was no beach, but it kept going down just in time so that by the day we were ready to shoot, it was at the perfect level. The boat, the paint on the boat was still drying that morning when we filmed, because they'd been building it for a month, and it was crazy. And so when we finished filming, we're like, we think that went well. The acting was great. The boat looked great. The water looked great. I hope the fish come through. But I was in this place where, God had taken me to this place for the last year and a half of just realizing it's not my job to feed the 5,000. It's only to provide the loaves and fish, which is kind of become a famous story in the chosen world.
Right.
And so I just trusted. I had no choice. I literally had no choice but to just trust each day with my hands outstretched that this was going to work. And it became one of the most talked about scenes in the show. And the guy who did the visual effects, kind of at the last minute as well, kind of came up with this solution that he believes God gave him at the last minute to make it look good and to make it work. And we get people all the time who said they had no idea it was, the backstory, and it felt like a great scene, So it was.
And so Jimmy has written a song that is just unbelievable. I mean, it's just funny. But it's not a Jimmy song. If you hear the Jimmy songs, they're heart-wrenching and deep but this is funny, and then as only a famous songwriter can do, he got an even more famous singer to sing it. Now, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play the song for you. You're gonna love the song, and if by chance, it's just being released today. And so if by chance you've already heard it, don't blow this for everybody, because when you get off here, I want you to be able to to go on to iTunes and buy this song, download the song, and so don't. But if you already know, or if you recognize the voice, guess. But don't Google it ahead of time. Don't ruin the game. And I want to see if anybody can guess this voice, because this is a very famous singer doing this. This person has been famous for a long time, and is just as famous, if not more famous now. And one thing I can tell you, I'll give you one clue. This guy is 2 degrees separation from Elvis Presley. And I know that because I have seen him singing with J.D. Sumner and right now, but one of the other guys that sang with Elvis. And so he's singing with those guys, or they were singing with him, actually. But this is a famous voice. So listen, and here we go with the song Jimmy wrote, Quarantine Crazy.
I told my wife to be patient with me. I'll slow it down and find some time, you'll see, to spend with you in these bundles of joy. Well, my wish came true, but it wasn't by choice. Now all this time with them has sure been a blessing. Just hanging out together 24/7. Now it was fun for a week, I'll admit it, but my cabin fever's about to reach its limit. Going quarantine crazy. I'm talking straight jacket lately. Another day or two might break me. I'm going quarantine crazy. I make it break it like Billy Ray Cyrus, 'cause if I leave I might get that virus. We're all out of beans and all out of taters. Come in and wrap it like the last roll of toilet paper. Going quarantine crazy. I'm talking straight jacket lately. Another day or two might break me. I'm going quarantine crazy. I've seen every episode of Dora the Explorer. The kids are all fighting while the dogs all are snoring. If I ever say I need some time off again, somebody punch me square in the chin. I'm going quarantine crazy. I'm out of my mind lately. Don't usually let nothing faze me. I'm going quarantine crazy. I'm pretty sure my wife hates me. I'm going quarantine crazy. Oh, I'm losing my mind. I ain't happy.
Was that great? I just, I think the song is great. I think the voice is great. Do you know who the voice is? Jimmy Buffett? No, not Buffett. But it sounds kind of like Buffett. Who else would it be? Yeah, I bet it would be Terry Bradshaw. Hey, Terry.
What's going on, man?
I am so glad that you are here. The song is great. The song is great.
I tell you, Jimmy Urey wrote that thing in 2 days, and he played it for me. And he said, "What do you want to change in it?" And so I listened to the words, and I said, honest to goodness, the only thing was when I leave, when they home, but it's a redundant comment. So I said, leave it as it is. So he said, are you sure? So we left it as it was. And then I said, look, let's get this thing recorded. I'm sorry the way I look, man. I've been outside.
No, you've been exercising. I saw you lifting weights this morning.
Yeah. Oh, you saw that? Yeah,
we saw it, man. That's what you get. You know. You did? Did you really?
Anyway, yeah, we shot a cottonmouth, and so glad we shot it.
Yeah, can't do that enough.
No, exactly.
Oh, I was just saying, Jimmy has been telling me about this as it's been going along. And he was just saying, he said, Terry will eat this up. And I have to tell everybody else, you and Jimmy are great friends, but you and I know that you're only friends with Jimmy because he shot a hole-in-one with you. I mean,
you know about that.
Do I know about it? I mean, I'm going to give him luggage for telling me 1,000 times. You know, so Terry was right here, and I was over here, and then Terry goes down, and we're looking for the ball. Then Terry goes over to the hole. Terry holds it up. I mean, how many times have I heard that? You have made this guy's life.
That was a shot. It's a short par 4, about 310, but it's a huge, big tree. 2 big trees. So you basically have to go down the fairway, and then you got to wedge in or sandwich even if you hit a draw.
Right.
If you catch it just right and you clear that tree, it's about 30 or 40 yards to the green. And he hit this thing, and it's right at the green, right at it. Then it's right at the flagpole. Then it hits, and we went, oh, my God. It jumps up in the air, and we went, man, you're on. You drove the green. Get out. So just the fact that he drove the green, at least we thought he drove the green, was excitement enough. Couldn't find the ball. I hit right here. I know, hit here. And we're looking everywhere for the ball. Couldn't find it. And then finally, I just said, you don't think that thing went in the hole, do you? And they went, no way. And walked over and there it was. I went, oh, my God. A hole-in-one on a par 4, double eagle.
Unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
Shot of a lifetime.
Well, and here you are. The dude can write. There is no doubt. And Jimmy can write.
Oh, yeah.
And he loves you. And getting that song out like this for everybody, it's just a great time for a good mood song. You know, it just is.
We were when my wife, I was sitting here in the office doing a interview with Buddy Martin, a great journalist. Been knowing him for 30 years. And he'd written a book of mine called Looking Deep, great writer. And we were talking football for the draft. And she's in the kitchen cooking, and she, for some reason, says, honey, I said, what? I'm going quarantine crazy. And I went, stop it. That's a hit title right there. I said, Buddy, I got to go. So I hung up with Buddy. I went in there and said, quarantine crazy. Oh, I got it. Here's this guy that won't spend any time with his family. He's always got an excuse. He's working hard because he wants them to have a better life than he grew up having. He can't spend time on Saturdays because he's got to get rid of all his anxiety and his frustration. And so he plays golf on Saturday. And Sunday, even after church, maybe he'll go to church or he might go fishing. But then the fall, he promises he's going to be back. I'm there for you this fall, but football season starts, and he can't spend time with his family. And then he likes to deer hunt, and he can't spend time with his family, and on and on and on. And so I called Jimmy. I said, here's how I see the song.
Here it is, yeah.
And Jimmy said, oh, I got it, dude. I got it. 2 days later, he calls me, hey, check this out. See what you think. There it is. That was the song.
Well, for people who are surprised, they shouldn't be surprised. You go on YouTube and watch Terry sing, and it was Jake Hess, J.D. Sumner and Jake Hess, right? And
yes.
But you go and watch Terry sing, and man, you can flat sing. And so this is great.
I don't like to say nice things about anything I can do because perception is if you do that, then you're an arrogant, self-centered. And I would like to.
I can say you can sing. Hey, Katrina has written in a question, and she does want to talk football because she wants to know what you thought about the draft last night.
I pretty much knew all those kids that got drafted in the first round. Probably the only surprise was Kansas City taking the Edwards kid from LSU at running back. But then when you thought about it, it was a perfect fit for them. A guy that's fast, elusive, not very tall, about 210 pounds, but fits Andy Reid's offense perfectly with Mahomes.
Gotcha.
Getting the ball back out of the backfield. And so I was not surprised that Tua went to Miami because of all the negative criticism about his injuries.
Right.
And I was happy. No, I know him, and I was very happy for him and his family. But for the most part, the draft kind of went according. People drafted according to their needs, with a couple exceptions. And I think Green Bay taking the kid out of Utah State, the quarterback, was a somewhat of a surprise, as bad as they need wide receivers. But this I do know about wide receivers. You can find them all throughout the draft if you've done your homework. They're everywhere. Good wide receivers. And you'll find them in the second round, third round, fifth round. They're there. A bunch of them. Running backs the same way.
Yeah, but you always need a strong arm quarterback, right?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, man.
Cameron, what's that kid's name? Jordan? I don't even know what his name is, from Utah State. Hey, man, I'm looking at my hair, and the hair looks terrible. Sorry,
your hair looks fine. One of my best buddies, Joe Bullard, has a hairstyle just like yours.
Well,
so hey, Gilbert Little from Shreveport said to tell you hello. You knew him from college, and so I know how you travel around. People come out of the woodwork they haven't seen in a while. I really appreciate you taking the time with us today. We're going to do whatever we can do to promote this song, man. I think it's a great thing you've done for all of us.
I thank you very much for playing it, for Jimmy Urey writing it. And actually, Jimmy and I, we're going to be doing more songs together. We've got a little pack worked out where we're going to be writing songs. And I think one of the things that people have to get over is that, if you're a football player, you're a football player. You can't do anything else. Singing is something I started doing long before I started playing football. So I'm really proud of the recognition that the singing is getting, and the fact that Jimmy and his wife Sonia and the Isaacs, who I was going to tour some with this year, came on. They're big supporters, and the fact nobody knows I have a show in Vegas. Nobody knows that it's so. I
didn't know you had a show in Vegas.
But yeah, and a bunch of shows have been canceled. I'll go all the way through February of next year. So.
Oh my gosh. You produced one of the last Isaacs albums, the 342, right?
I did. I'm executive producer, which only means I financed it.
But I've seen you sing. I've seen you singing with him. So
hey, man,
I know you.
You know what? Now, hey, get this. I have now done the Grand Ole Opry 4 times, and all because of the Isaacs. And they got me over my fear of doing the opera. I was petrified. It was my bucket list, but I was petrified to walk out and stand on that stage in the Ryman or in the other one.
Yeah, in the new one now, yeah.
And to stand there and sing where Hank Williams sang, and Patsy Cline and Eddie Arnold and all my heroes, Marty Robbins, and to stand there was too intimidating for me. And the Isaacs got me over that, and I can't thank them enough. We've become great friends.
Please welcome John O'Leary. I'm so glad you're here. For those of you who don't know John O'Leary, I don't know that there is anybody more in demand as a speaker right now in America than John. And John's first book was called On Fire. This Ian All book, we'll talk about it in a minute. But John, do you mind? I know that you probably like I've told this so many times, but do you mind telling just a little bit of your story to people? And just you guys listen to this. I just love John.
So Andy is my role model, and when I grow up, I hope I become Andy Andrews. So let's start with that as part of the story. I think then chapter 2 is this, man. I never wanted to tell anybody about my story. I never told friends in grade school, middle school, high school, or college, roommates, girlfriends, nobody about what happened to me when I was a little boy. Never told a soul, man. I was 27 years old before I answered the question that you just asked me a moment ago with truth of what really happened. And what really happened is the Blue Plate special with Andy Andrews was burned in a house fire on 100% of his body. I spent 5 months in the hospital, lost my fingers due to amputation, went through years of surgery and therapy, and dealt with a lifetime of some challenges. And so, Andy,
Now,
I never
you were
wanted to
9
tell
years old,
anybody.
right, John? 9 years old.
I was 9 when it all went down, and it was terrifically difficult. And even though back then in real time, it was also packed with grace and love and redeeming characters showing up in my life, like my siblings, like my parents, like the doctors, the nurses, volunteers from around the world. We talked about them earlier, like the Pope wrote a letter. People were planting trees in Israel. Some dark-haired guy named Ronald Reagan was writing letters with Nancy saying that they were praying for this little family from St. Louis, Missouri to get better. And so it really was a global movement of people loving this family with no chance forward.
Yeah, there was, because they gave you zero chance to live, right?
Exactly right. I mean, 100% burn. The way you do the math today is you add a percentage of your body burned. So I know it's early, guys. Grab your root beer, do the math with me, grab your crayons. 100%, add the age of the patient, 9, and you got mortality. So for me, it would have been 109% likelihood of passing away.
It's just amazing. And you guys, you want to sign up for John's podcast. He has a podcast. It's Living Inspired. John O'Leary, and John, tell us where they can. He goes, John O'Leary Inspires, right?
Yeah.
John
so if you
O'Leary
Google
Inspires.
John O'Leary,
yeah,
right, that ought to pop up. The podcast is called Live Inspired. You can learn about all of the work we do at readinawe.com, just an easy site to remember. It's called readinawe.com. And as you learn more about John O'Leary, more about his stories, more about his books, more about his speeches, you realize nothing he does ultimately is about him. I'm not the main character in the Blue Plate special or anywhere else in life. I happen to be a character, but I'm just holding up a mirror, showing the good work that other people are doing, what they are teaching, how they are showing up, and what it might mean for the rest of us going forward.
Right. John, there's a lot of people. I mean, I'm just watching the comments come in like crazy with people saying they love you and they're appreciating meeting you today. Dean O'Brien says he loved reading your last book. Melody Van Arsdale, and a lot of people saying just thanks so much. Linda Berg, Mary Crossler Taylor, just thanks for having you on. Hey, I do want to ask you something. How often do you Google John O'Leary?
Man, so my mom, I'll answer that question, Andy, by sharing a story. My mom is one of the wisest people I know. And we were watching Miss America just to show you the level that the O'Leary family is hanging out on back in like 1993. But I'll never forget it. The woman won. She's got her flower. She's got her crown. And my mother went to turn off the TV. And here's what my mom said. I'll never forget it. John, all it would take is for one person to say one negative thing about her right now, and her whole night is ruined. And I think that's true for Miss America, but I know it's true for me. I realize how soft my skin is, man. And so I don't Google myself because I don't want to be influenced by someone else's take on me. I want to be authentic. I want to be real. I want to be love. I want to be bold in my faith. I want to be bold in my life, but I don't want to be influenced by someone else saying, why would he wear a blue shirt? Why would he say that? And so I try not to Google John O'Leary or see just about anything else written about John O'Leary. We have a book already out called On Fire. It has 564 five-star reviews. It's got 3 negative reviews. Do you think I'm more fired up about the 500 plus or the dude, every time, man. So I don't want to be influenced by the negativity. I choose joy, and I want to reflect that, and I don't want to be brought down by it, man. So I'm not running for office, people. You can't bring me down.
Well, I mean, I hear you. And I'm the same way. Golly, man, I finally decided I was not reading these Amazon reviews because if they were horrible about me, I thought, well, they're wrong. And then I got to thinking, well, if they are very nice to me, I thought, well, they might be wrong too. So I'm just not going to read any of them. The reason that I asked, I was not being a smart aleck, but the reason I asked if you Googled yourself, because I knew you didn't. I knew you did. I knew you didn't for a couple of reasons. I knew you didn't just for that reason you just gave, but I also knew you didn't because I did. Because I was just trying. I was just looking around, and your picture is up there with your books and a couple of other books that you did not write. But it also says that John O'Leary is a chartered surveyor and chartered town planner and senior lecturer at the School of Architecture, Design and Construction, University of Greenwich, United Kingdom.
I'm busy. So when I'm not
you are
working,
busy.
speaking, and writing, or doing podcasts, or raising 4 kids, I go to my summer house in Greenwich and I do land surveying, and I do it well. I do it very well.
Yeah, you do it well, and take no criticism for it. So I got a question about On Fire. You know, this book, to me, I just, that book blew me away. And, you know, knowing your story, and by the way, you guys, if you're listening today, you must get the Professional Noticer podcast that comes out tomorrow, all right? Because John is the guest on that, and we talk a lot longer than we have the opportunity to today, and we get more in depth about his story. And you want to hear the story of how Jack Buck, the Hall of Fame broadcaster for the Cardinals, influenced his life when he was very young. John, here's a question. On Fire released in 2016. This book, In Awe, in 2020. So I'm just curious, why so long between the books? Now, I do that too, but I have my reason, and I don't see anybody else doing that but you, and I'm just curious.
So I've never fancied myself as a speaker, even though I've spoken 2,200 times in front of a couple million people. I don't fancy myself as a radio host or podcast host. I don't fancy myself as an author. These things are titles that I get to wear from time to time, but they don't define me. And so I wrote a really beautiful book called On Fire. And I said what I needed to say about life and about selflessness and about grace and about love and about people showing up in the right way. And I laid it out there. It has done very well. And I was extraordinarily proud of what On Fire had done and the impact that it was continuing to have. And then, Andy, why I came back into writing is this. I saw this need that we adults have to be reminded of what joy looks like in action. I saw the possibility we have to return to how we once were as kids, when life was full of possibility, when we were ferociously optimistic, when we believed that life indeed was good and the best days remain in front of us. When we were children, we naturally had this sense of awe and wonder and expectancy and freedom. It just grounded us, but it also freed us to go boldly into the day. And then as we age through school, age through life, follow our way forward, we miss out. We lose sight a little bit of these characteristics we once had. And so I'm witnessing how we adults frequently are enduring the mundane and the challenges of each day versus the way a child does naturally. I wanted to put forward an idea in front of people that would remind them how they once were, what they lost, how to return to it, and in doing so, how it would radically change not only your life, which is awesome, but the entire world, which is our calling.
Wherever you are, I hope the weather is great. And if it's not, stay inside and make something great happen. All right? Bye-bye.